Michelle Malkin joins us. Santa came into his own in the late 1800s, and that's when Huck Finn was big. And Huck Finn, as a child, smoked a pipe. I'm wondering if it's because Santa did.
Well, and also there's part of the story about Coca-Cola, and he was in advertising. That's where the popular image comes from. Michelle, good morning to you.
Good morning to you.
Okay, we're not going to talk about Santa. Let's talk about something dreadful that happened in Michigan a couple of days ago. There was actually some violence outside the Capitol after the legislature passed the right-to-work law, where people now have a choice. You don't have to join a union as a precondition of working someplace. There you can see in the background the Americans for Prosperity tent being torn down. Looks like by a bunch of pro-union guys. Gray had some people on last night who described what was going on. We didn't know this till last night. Listen to this.
Two men came in ski masks. They had box cutters or knives. They started to cut the canvas straps that tethered the tent to the ground. They started to flip over the tables that had hot coffee on it. It was scary, and I think a lot of people also felt very angry. They felt like their personal space had been invaded, and their right to have their voice heard was being trampled on.
And on top of that, Steven Crowder got socked in the mouth by a guy 4 times. There were a number of arrests. What do you make of all this? There's Steven.
It's an object lesson. It's an object lesson in how the far left and the big labor bosses react when legislation is passed peacefully and activists are exercising their free speech rights to defend increasing the freedom of workers. I know the Americans for Prosperity folks in Michigan. They are among the best people that I have met, very dedicated to their cause, free market principles, and ensuring that these workers are not subjected to coercion of forced dues and this big labor racket that has gone on for decades. It's a complete shakedown. And I have to say that so many of these activists were inspired by the spirit of Andrew Breitbart, and it's because of their commitment to citizen journalism that you can watch this video, that they've been exposed. Very brave. And how dare these feckless cowards who were mobbing and storming this tent do this, particularly when there were so many women in the tent. What does that tell you about the manhood of these union activists who did such a thing? There's not an apology from a single one of them, and we haven't heard a word from President Obama. How come he's not calling up these women who were subjected to this? You know, he could call Sandra Fluke up. He could have beer summits with Harvard professors who concoct racism where it doesn't exist. But when it comes to defending people who are subjected to such incivility, nothing from this White House, nothing from this administration.
That should come as no surprise, I guess, because he doesn't agree.
Nope.
I mean, these people in the tent don't agree with what the president had just said in Michigan the day before, which was that he was hoping that Governor Rick Snyder would veto that right to work. I'm interested, though, in your thoughts about the movement that we seem to be seeing about more and more right-to-work states. To me, Michigan is emblematic of all of them because it's the home of the auto industry where the unions have been so powerful. And it's interesting to me in the sense that the state went for Obama, but that the voters actually wanted what happened here.
Yeah, that's right. And remember, just as context, that there was a measure on the ballot that the big labor bosses were pushing that would have enshrined collective bargaining rights into the state constitution, and it was rejected 57% to 42%. I think that there's certainly there's divided government and there's divided opinion in this country, and there is a devolution of power to grassroots conservatives. I mean, whereas Washington and Beltway Republicans failed to do their job at the national level, more and more we're seeing that grassroots free market principles are winning at the state and local level, and that is cause for hope for sure.
Michelle Malkin, how would you feel if John Boehner cut a deal in which the rates went up on those horrible people that make over $250,000 in return for cuts? If there was a compromise deal where the rates went up, how would you feel?
I'm reading her body language. She doesn't like it.
line. It really wants to get my blood pressure up into the
I know you have a
triple
big day.
Yeah. Look, I think that that the House Republicans need to be reminded again that they were put back in the majority for a reason, and that reason was not to give in, to fold like a deck of cards, and to capitulate to the Democratic agenda. This president does not have a blank check to continue spending us into oblivion. And it's the House Republicans and conservatives on Capitol Hill who have to hold the line.
And in public, Mr. Boehner is holding the line. It's interesting, a brand new Fox News poll came out yesterday, and people were asked, if income taxes do go up, you know, on the top 2% or whatever, should the president agree to make major spending cuts as well? Look at that gigantic number. About 90% say yes. Only the hardliners, 9%, say no.
Yeah, that's encouraging. And I think, again, this is more evidence that the president's claim to some sort of broad mandate to hike all taxes, not just income taxes, is not there. And look at the medical device tax. Now you've got all of these Democratic senators who voted into place running from it, screaming bloody murder. And, you know, they're finally getting the message. And I think this really should bolster
I think it also
the tax reformers.
It also shows that Americans realize that just increasing taxes does not fix the problem that America has right now and what we're passing on to the next generation potentially. Real quickly, your thoughts on going green means going broke for some schools. Please explain.
Yeah, big energy scam called LEED, which is the designation for energy-efficient buildings across the country. There's a builders' council that has foisted this racket on the country for quite a while now, and there's all sorts of government incentives at every level so that architects and designers pursue this designation. And in the nation's schools, this has become somewhat of a boondoggle, and USA Today did a very good investigative report on how it's based on a lot of junk science, because what you'll have is a lot of these eco-zealots claiming that these energy-efficient modifications somehow improve academic performance. No evidence whatsoever.
That's right. It's so crazy because we're spending hundreds of millions of dollars on these green buildings that aren't green, and in fact, some of the old buildings are more energy efficient. Michelle, have a terrific weekend. Thank you very much for joining us on this Thursday Fox and Friends.
You bet. Take care, guys.